Mamma mia. Oh, me not plugged in, of course. Goodness gracious. Oh, how silly. Thought I had everything under control. Never, 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 never. Never think that, right? That's dangerous. Ugh. I do think I should just give up sometimes. It's like the advice from Jack Black on School of Rock to all the kids. Just give up. But not like giving up in that way. Hey, Jackie Bushable. But giving up in like surrendering to Jesus type of way. There you go. That's what I'm talking about when I say just give up. Just surrender to God and everything will be fine, right? All right, let's get going. How are you, honey? Can you hear me all right? I hope so, because I don't have any time to mess with anything today. Excuse me, I have 1 hour exactly. So let's get going. Everything I say is simply my opinion for the sake of hoping to start a conversation, open up a discussion, learn something. And all the videos that I make are for YouTube, and it's an entertainment platform. I think I just slightly adjusted things in a way that I didn't mean to when I was plugging in. Okay, all better. Almost. Let's see. Let's do like that. No, let's do like that. It's like opposite. You got to remember it's different when you're videotaping as opposed to going live. It like flips. So that's why we all get confused. So Jackie Bushable says, I've been in the pits. How about you? I'm sorry, dear. What are you in the pits about? What are you in the pits about? Please do share. Me so sorry to hear that. I've been doing pretty well, but I think a large part of that is the yoga, and I'm not trying to sell anybody anything. I'm just thrilled to be finding a new routine that really works for me. So I've been loving it. I got my certification, my teacher certification almost a year ago now, and I've seriously been doing a yoga routine almost daily for like 2.5 years now. And for me, I'm all about routine. So whether it's like gardening, going to work, swimming, feeding the dogs, drinking my coffee, whatever it is, I need a routine. I thrive with a routine. When I don't have a routine, things get haywire. And I think that that's true for most people. Do you have a good routine, sweetie? Coming into the season when my husband passed last year, June 4th. Screw that. I'm so sorry. Yeah. And the first anniversary is the hardest. I feel for you, my dear. That is really awful. So, did I do my whole disclaimer? Because I just want to jump right into some things. And my deepest sympathies and condolences. And I hope you have a good support system around you. And I do think that true crime, and I think politics are true crime right now. I do think that it's therapeutic in a few ways. And one of those things is just a simple distraction. I did. So let me not be so distracted. Let me ask to make sure that you're still subscribed. If you are subscribed indeed, and if you're not, please consider it. Turn on your notification bell to ring, and also share a video of mine with somebody that you think might like it. So there's so much going on right now. It's hard to not think that some of these things are simple distractions. Of course, we got the stock market fiasco. We've got the bond market fiasco, which the bonds don't usually have a fiasco. They're very stable. We got the big E, who's dipped out of the scene for, I think, like the last 24 or 36 hours. That's sus AF, in my humble opinion. And we've got all this information with Elaine Chao and her sister Angela Chao that I've just opened a Pandora's box of cray. And it's very relevant to what's going on right now with the stocks and the trades and China. To quote the genius, what did he say yesterday? That people are getting yippy. Some folks are getting yippy. So, because they were getting yippy, I decided to flip a switch. That's a new word, yippy. Is that kind of like being a hippie? I thought of it kind of like a little small dog nipping at your ankles. But whatever it was bizarre, was it not? Everything he's been doing is very bizarre, in my opinion. So then we've got that absolute catastrophe in the Dominican Republic, the club called the JetSet, that the ceiling caved in. And the latest numbers this morning are 218 so far that they've found. And my guess is that they're going to find a lot more as they keep digging. They're not expecting to find any more people that have survived. In fact, the numbers as they stand right now, they have more deceased remains than they do survivors. I think the survivor number, when I saw it just an hour or so ago, was about 186, according to CNN's super recent count. And then the deceased was 218. And they say that they haven't pulled out anyone from the rubble survived since Tuesday. So, of course, there's always miracles, right? But the thing about this Dominican Republic, maybe the building was just not built well. Maybe it just caved in on its own. But maybe it was not caved in on its own. Their Monday night parties that they have, what do they call them? There's a special name. It's just called JetSet Mondays. 50 years this place has been around, and the JetSet Mondays attract an international crowd. And I misquoted CNN. No, I didn't. That was an updated number. Sorry. Okay, so some of these people that were in this crowd that passed away, we had some famous athletes, we had some famous politicians. We had a son of a public works minister, Eduardo Estrella. We had an army captain. We had the president of a bank, another president of a big bank, like the one whose airplane crashed in Minnesota last week. So this president of AFP, Popular Bank, and his wife, and then 3 employees of financial services, Grupo Popular. And then who else? We have the governor of Monte Cristo Providence, Nelsie Cruz. She called the Dominican Republican president from under the rubble before she succumbed to her wounds. It says that most people passed instantaneously or pretty quickly, that, these were cinder blocks falling on people's heads and shoulders. So it's just crazy. So the place, the JetSet Club, has a capacity to hold 500. They've accounted for roughly 400. They don't really know how many people were in there, of course. But even the lead singer that was on the stage passed away, and the saxophone player. So I can't help but wonder if it might be some sort of terrorist attack or gang activity. Of course, it could be just gravity and something that wasn't built well, but the officials aren't saying anything. They're not taking any guesses. They're not laying any possibilities out there. They're just saying it's under investigation. So that makes me think that it is something that was man-made, that was intentional, because normally they would just say, that They did say things like they don't know when the last time it was inspected, but then they would normally talk about those last inspections, like, oh, everything was secure, or there were some issues, and then we hadn't had a chance to follow up to see if they got resolved. So the timing of it being that that was Monday night, Tuesday morning, and here we are Thursday, April 10th, and this week has just been a catastrophe of a roller coaster for much of the world financially. However, there are a handful of billionaires who made a couple extra $1 billion. Charles Schwab was one of them, made $1 or $2 billion. That was who we had our first investment portfolio with when we first got married. I'm glad we're not doing business with them anymore, just because something seems fishy to me. Of course, we all have speculated that it was intentional and that it was designed maybe to help somebody out, like somebody who owns a big electric car company and a, Starlink company and maybe a social platform that he's crashed and burned and sold to himself. All of his finances are crashing and burning due to his fascist speech and actions, his salute. He's toast, and anything that touches him is toast too. But Donnie can't afford for him to be toast because he is Donnie's financial backbone. Vladdy used to be Donnie's financial backbone, but Vladdy don't have no cash. They're all strapped. I mean, I don't know how that works when you're a bazillionaire and you're strapped for cash, but I can imagine. I mean, it's just on paper and it's all tied up in, there's nothing liquid basically, or not enough liquid. I'm sure they have money to buy lunch, right? Anyway, it's insane. And to tie this in with Angela Chao, who was the 50-year-old who drowned in a Tesla on her own property a year ago. And I read you guys an article about that. And I wanted to read you Wikipedia about her big sister, Elaine Chao, who's married to Mitch McConnell, because I think that all of this has deep ties. This whole Chao family has been one of the richest families in the world for a long time. And they're all about Chinese trade. When Angela Chao's car ended up in a pond on her husband's property at about 11:30 at night after she had dinner and drinks with some friends and was just driving across the property, her son, that was, I think, the motivation of why she was going at 11:30, why she got in her car to drive to the other building. I think that they were at a guest house with their little dinner party and she was driving to the main house, but it might have been the other way around. But her son was freaking 4 years old. So she was married once when she was 35 to a very wealthy elderly man who was like 71 or 72. The same year that she married him, and his last name is Wasserstein. I want to say Jim Wasserstein. I might not have written it down. The same year that she married him, early in the year, he passed away later in the year. I think I actually did write it down, but let me see. If I did, it would be on this other page. I'm surprised I have so many pages. But yes, I do. I only have 2.5. That's not too bad. Oh, how come I didn't write his last name down? Because I did. It's right here. Bruce Wasserstein. She married him in January of 2009. He passed away in October of 2009 in Manhattan. And he actually might have been 61. See, this is why the internet's so stupid, because a lot of these articles are written by artificial intelligence. I think one article said that he was 61, the one that I wrote this down with, but then the last thing I looked at said he was 71. Anyway, so she was 35. So either way, he was a great deal older than her. He'd been married with kids. He'd been quite a playboy. She was married to him for less than a year. She was already a billionaire herself, but probably became even more of a billionaire. And maybe at 35, she wasn't quite a billionaire yet. She was just from a billionaire family. And we all know how important that is to, marry money when you have money so that you keep the money rolling. Anyway, it was 3 bad years in a row for Angela. Her mother passed away in 2007 from cancer. Her sister Jeanette passed suddenly at age 52 in Lebanon, Pennsylvania on March 20th of 2008. And then that would have been 2 months. Actually, that would have been almost 10 months before she got married. And then 9 months later, her husband dies. So 2007, her mom died. 2008, her sister passed. And 2009, her husband passed. So the mom might not have been unexpected, but the sister was entirely unexpected. And all it says, I've seen many, many articles about it. Nothing reveals a clue other than brief illness, which that could be anything. That could be depression, for all we know. Could be poison, for all we know. Could be domestic violence, for all we know. But then when she married Bruce and he passed, and she would have probably inherited basically everything because she was married to him, unless they had a prenup, because he had ex-wives, because he had many children. I think he had at least 3 different baby mamas. He had a baby out of wedlock right before he married her with also somebody who was much younger than himself. So anyway, Angela remarried in 2012. And then she had a child 5 years ago when she was 46 years old. So last year when she passed at age 50, and she was about to turn 51, but her little boy, I believe it's a boy, was only 4 years old. And her having her first baby at 46, that's kind of a miracle too. She very likely had to use fertility enhancements and maybe a surrogate, for all we know. It's not really relevant, I don't think, but then again, it could be. You guys, this whole freaking Project 2025, Handmaid's Tale, Jackie Bushable. I had the weirdest thought yesterday. Let me share it with you and see if you think I've lost my mind. Because I kind of felt a knife in my heart, which is my body telling me that I'm spot on. But I would like to think that it's just me being crazy. All this freaking talk about the price of eggs, it's all we've fucking heard about since the election. Oh, the price of eggs is so high. We're going to bring the price of eggs down on day 1. And then there's this old-fashioned word that I never heard of or haven't heard it since I was a little kid, groceries. But the hyper focus on the price of eggs up, price of eggs down. Handmaid's Tale, their last season just dropped this week, the start of their last season. I thought it was done a long time ago, but that's because I never watched it, never followed it. It's too grim. Handmaid's Tale, I think, ties directly in with Project 2025 and the plans with that is probably nearly complete with implementation. It was a 100-day plan, and I think we're somewhere around day 80. I don't know. I've lost track. I can't keep up with all this crazy. They're flooding the zone. The price of eggs, the whacked out things that I've said about harvesting zygote ingredients from young beauties like Kylie Rodney, like Trinity Backus, like Dante Del Toro. like Ethan Chapman and Kaylee Gonsalves, Kaylee G, Madison Mogan, and Xana Kernodle. We never saw the remains of those four come out of that residence, 1122 King Road in the Idaho 4 case. How quickly we forget as the zone gets flooded with all this distraction. Even just in that case by itself, so much distraction. The Kopaka distraction, the Buddy distraction, the 12-year-old dog up the road. How did they get those remains out of that residence without anybody seeing? That's simply impossible, in my humble conspiracy theory opinion, allegedly. But back to the zygote ingredient. So a zygote is a fertilized egg, right? Just like one cell or two cells. And then it turns into an embryo and then a fetus. So the egg and the sperm. Easy to extract from somebody when they're newly deceased. Easy to extract. And then we've got cryogenics. And I'm not even convinced that all these people that I've named are deceased because I'm that crazy. Fred Field, hola, did I miss anything? No, just me going off the deep end, that's all. So the price of eggs is really high. That's all Donnie talks about. Is he talking about eggs from people like that? Is he talking about the price of the eggs that you want to buy to have a surrogate carry your genetic material to full term? Making babies is what we're put on this planet for. That is physically and psychologically probably the strongest driving motivational force known to mankind and to any creature that procreates, or even creatures that just like spontaneously self recreate. There are those, aren't there? Like snakes. I don't know. They don't do it. They don't fertilize eggs, do they? Ugh. Anyway, sharks, they probably do copulate. I don't know. But then we've got people like going back down to the Dominican Republic with the one tragedy. Was only a couple of weeks ago, the other tragedy with the young woman that disappeared from the beach. And I wrote her name down. It's a tough name. So I finally wrote it down. And of course, now I can't find it. So I am going to read to you what Wikipedia says about Elaine Chao, because I think that ties in all this crazy together. Oh, where's her name? That poor young woman. It's like Sudiska. I wrote it down here. I know I did. Here it is. My eyes just aren't seeing it. No, that's not it. I don't think. Yeah, maybe that is. That is it. Sabaya Mojaya. Is that it? Or is this a different person? No, this is a different person. Sorry. That was a different victim. Is this it? It's right here. Sudiska Konaki. That's it. So we have Sudiska Konaki, who could have been abducted for trafficking. there's question about that. I don't know enough about the case. I think Evil Exists is mostly my source of information about her disappearance. It's reminding me a lot of Taylor Casey. Remember Taylor Casey from Chicago, the trans woman at the yoga place in the Bahamas that disappeared much the same way. A single man on the beach. The officials just want to say she drowned. If these people drowned, their remains would have washed up. And if their remains didn't wash up because they were, say, eaten by a shark, I guess the sharks would spit out the clothes. And so then the clothes wash up. And then that's how you know they were drowned and eaten by a shark. So this Sudiska Konaki, could it be that she's being trafficked the way people thought that maybe Natalie Holloway was being trafficked in Aruba? So that other one that I read the name to you, that's one I'll get to, not in today's video, but I think her full name is Danishka Melina Sabaya Mahaya. No, that's, I'm covering too many. No. The other one that disappeared in Aruba is, hang with me here, Robin Gardner. It's a very fascinating case that is in the news right now. She, I guess, was a swinger, met this guy online. They went on a vacation to Aruba. He took out $1.5 million life insurance on her, and then he disappeared her, and then he got paid the life insurance, allegedly. And so she disappeared in Aruba, July of 2011. I know I'm all over the place. I'll get grounded one sec. And then the Danishka Melina Sabaya Maya was from Costa Rica. She was young, like 23, I think. She split her time between Costa Rica and Knoxville, Tennessee. I don't know if she had like dual citizenship. And she was violated. She was assaulted in the most intimate way a year ago, almost a year ago to the day, April 5th, 2024. She reported it the next day. I think the person that she accused is Lotwayne Osborne. And this happened in Knoxville, Tennessee, I believe. And then the very next day after she reported it, I think that she was unalived by a gun. I think 4 individuals, including this guy, Lotwayne Osborne, allegedly broke into the house that she was in with a female friend and a male friend. And she was unalived, and the male was injured but survived. And then the arrests have just happened. So her family has been pushing for, it's just so gross. Women getting objectified and getting disappeared or their lives taken. And the sexual violence is so disgusting. It's not an act of the former, it's an act of the latter. It's so disgusting when you have those wires crossed. Let's go back to Perry, the real life character from In Cold Blood, who started that quadruple homicide in efforts to save a teenager from being exploited in that way by his partner in crime. Because he couldn't stand, as much as he was a sick enough person to unalive 4 people in a very short space of time, he couldn't deal with people whose brains were so malfunctioned that they committed SAs. that grape was just something he could not deal with. You mentioned little T, and it reminds me that my niece is going into the spray tan business. LOL. That's hilarious. I wonder if that spray tan business, if there's any health issues. I would think so, with like the aspiration of the chemicals, that can't be good for your lungs. You'd have to be really careful with a mask. But also, if it's chemicals and your body's absorbing it, that could be bad too. Hopefully, they're using safe minerals and things. I don't know. Maybe they've formulated spray tans that are actually nourishing, as long as you don't overdo it. Like if you had like carotene from carrots, vitamin A from carrots, like you can overdo that really easily. Like that's what those kids in Texas are getting sick from. The vitamin A that RFK Jr. is saying, don't get vaccinated, just overdose on vitamin A and you'll be fine. Okay, so I need to calm down. I'm just all over the place because I'm on a short time frame. I'm halfway through my time frame. But as you mentioned, little T, Fred Field, his obsession with talking about how he won the election, it's like, yeah, we know you won the election. You're El Presidente. You can shut up about it already. How many presidents have ever continued to talk about that they won the election, that everybody voted for them, that it was a landslide? There is more and more evidence being proven that the numbers were manipulated, that the computer systems were manipulated. To quote little T himself, that the big E is really good with those computers, the ones that tally up the votes. So not just him, but a lot of people were doing a lot of shady crap on election day, especially those swing states like Pennsylvania. I'll put a couple of links in the description to a couple of really good articles or videos. One is Jessica Denson, and the other one is the same guest that's on Jessica Denson, but from a different channel, content creator. And then the channel that put out this really short video with both of those in it, I'll put all three of those in the description because that's so important. The election hygiene that never happened. But no one's ever been so obsessed talking about that they won the election and how they won the election and how it was such a huge accomplishment. So the way he won, the way the votes are tallied, was outdoing President Reagan, who's like the only president who won. Did he win? I was going to ask, did he win all 50 states? But he did not win Minnesota, I think. He won 49 states. That was the biggest landslide of all time. But the science of how the numbers and how the votes look on spreadsheets is so inconsistent with what's possible. The chances of it happening the way it did happen without it, whether it's cheating or not, the chances of it happening are sort of like that 1 in a trillion or 1 in hundreds of trillions or something like that, you know, just overwhelmingly cray. And yeah, did the big E make little T pull his reverse yesterday? I wonder. So I'm just wanting to make sure that I got all this information in already before I get started on reading you from Wikipedia what it says about Elaine Chao, which there was so much of a revenge vendetta against her and her family, I believe, for a long time, that could well explain the malfunctioning of the Tesla X last February 11th on that property in Austin, Texas. So yeah. And let me reiterate from yesterday that season 5 of The Handmaid's Tale, Fred Field, did you know this? Season 5 of The Handmaid's Tale, there's only 6 seasons. I think that the season that's dropping now is the last one. And it just started dropping, I think, Monday or Tuesday. But that's after a 2.5-year hiatus. So season 5 started being dropped on September 14th, a month and a week after Kylie Rodney disappeared. 2 weeks after Kylie Rodney's 17th birthday is when season 5 of The Handmaid's Tale started to drop on Hulu. And then the season concluded dropping Fred Field. You're going to flip if you're a conspiracy theorist like me, or open to entertain the possibility. So season 5 of Handmaid's Tale concluded on November 9th of 2022. So 4 days before what happened at 1122 King Road. 1122. I just put that together also, that you have 11/9/22 and it happened at 11/22. When you go for the numbers thing, it just gets so whack so fast that then I'm just like, no, that's just coincidence. Numbers are just numbers. But all of this Titanic stuff, allegedly, they love the cray numbers. She has a tent to set up in client's kitchen that has an exhaust fan for vapors. OMG, Fred, that is wild. She has done a lot of research on safety. That's excellent and wild. I heard you mention Handmaids don't have access to Hulu. I've never watched it. I don't know that I ever will. I've tried a couple of times because of all this talk about it in the true crime. I've never watched the television series. I watched the movie when it came out in the 90s. I read the book when it came out in the late 80s. That was too much for me. Each by itself was too much for me. I think especially the book. I think the book is a lot heavier than the movie, but the movie's really heavy too. And it stars Natasha Richardson, who was Liam Neeson's future wife at the time, and then she passed away from a head injury in a ski accident a few years back. And isn't he dating Pamela Anderson without makeup now? Tangent, sorry. Okay. So here we go. I'm going to grab my phone and look up the Elaine Chao thing and read it. Wow. Just turning 21. Well, what an excellent industry for her to be in, especially if it's not hazardous to anybody's health. If it's hazardous to anybody's health, then maybe she can invent a way that it's not. Wouldn't that be cool? Let's see. So Elaine Chao is still currently married to Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell is still currently the Republican senator from Kentucky. The Chao family goes back decades, billionaires with shipping industry, shipping dry goods from China. And the 6 sisters, you got Elaine, that's the oldest, that's married to Mitch McConnell. And then you have Angela, who is the youngest, who was married twice, once to this banker, Wasserstein, who was pretty shady when it comes to business. But let me just get reading this because I just need to reel it in. 21 minutes left. She is taking coding in school too. Nice. Maybe she can do a smart tan, right? Elaine Lan Chao, born March 26, 1953, is an American businesswoman and former government official who served as U.S. Secretary of Labor in the administration of George Bush from 2001 to 2009, and as United States Secretary of Transportation in the administration of Trump from 2017 to 2021. So I've read you guys information about her before, not this specific thing. But the most important thing to remember that I was discovering yesterday when I was on air with you is that she was the first person in the government to resign after the insurrection. So I think she's put in her resignation on that day, but it says that she didn't resign until like January 10th of 2021. And then 3 years later and a month, this happens to her little sister in a Tesla. As a member of the Republican Party, Chao was the first Asian American woman to serve in a presidential cabinet. She resigned as transportation secretary after the January 6th Capitol attack. Oh, maybe this is the one that I read you guys. That's annoying because I wanted to find this other one. Let me see. So why are there two Wikipedias? That's so bizarre. And then we've got Wikidata, Wikiquote. Let me see what the other Wikipedia is, if that's the one that I was trying to read to you. No, I don't think that's it either. I'm sorry, I think I was reading to you the one that I already read yesterday. That's why it was sounding so familiar. Let's see about this. The Wikidata. No, that's not even complete sentences. That's not it. It really goes over the history of her career and just how deeply she tied in with so much. Dang. See, I was looking at it on my laptop, and that's why I can't get to it so easily. But the Harvard Business School, the New York Times, American Oversight. This might be it, the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library. Let's see. So one of the other things that I thought was really interesting was that she was currently on the board of directors for the Kennedy Center, that little T fired everybody, but she got offered that position later in the year after she quit because of the insurrection. And she said in her letter of resignation, it was scathing about the violence and her inability to support that crap. So let's see if this Ronald Reagan presidential thing, this looks like it might be it. We can take a stab at it since I'm live, and I only have like 15 more minutes, and this is, it looks like about 5 pages. So, Elaine Lan Chao is a businesswoman and former government official. Chao's government career began in 1983 in the Reagan administration and ended in her serving as the first Asian American woman cabinet member. And little T hated her, and he often called her like the crazy Chinese lady or something like that, in referencing Mitch McConnell's significant other. So he'd hated her for a long time, but remember the whole thing with China and the shipping and the money, and yeah, it goes back a long time. It didn't just start with her resigning from her position as transportation secretary. It goes back so much further. What was I going to say about her resigning from that? Oh, that she was under investigation a lot. Although you never know. Some of those investigations may have been for good reason, but I don't think that they ever like charged her guilty of anything that they investigated her for. And that's one way you can just harass somebody at work that you know, like you just investigate them a lot. It makes people nervous. It makes people quit sometimes, but it definitely diminishes their quality of life and makes their stress skyrocket. Okay, Chao was the Secretary of Labor for the entire George W. Bush administration and Secretary of Transportation for most of the Trump administration. I think that means just not the last 2 weeks. Chao was born in Taipei, Taiwan on March 26, 1953, the eldest of 6 sisters of Ruth Mulan Chu Chao, a historian, and James S.C. Chao, if I'm saying the last name right. Her father was born in Jiading District, Shanghai, China, and worked as a sea captain before moving to the U.S. in 1958. So the whole Chao family, going back to her dad's siblings, they're all billionaires. James Chao obtained a scholarship to St. John's University in Queens, New York, where he eventually earned a master's degree. In 1964, he founded the shipping company Foremost Maritime Corporation, which developed into the Foremost Group. In 1961, at the age of 8, Chao came to the United States on a 37-day freight ship journey along with her mother and 2 younger sisters. That's wild. Caught you in alive. Hey, Patricia Moss. How are you? It's been so long. Lovely to see you. I'm just finishing this article about Mitch McConnell's wife, Elaine Chao, and I'll have to send you back to the beginning of to do the replay to fill you in on all the crazy of how it all ties together with the current mumbo jumbo going on with people getting so yippy that it made the El Presidente reverse his course with the tariffs, except with China. He hates China. Oh, and the other day somebody introduced him as Mr. Trump. Did you guys catch that? It was almost a see you next Tuesday. It was pretty wild. Anyway, where were we? That was wild coming over on the ship. Chao attended Singhing Elementary School in Taiwan for 2 years. Growing up in Long Island, New York, Chao attended Syosset High School in Syosset, New York. After graduating from high school, Chao was naturalized as a U.S. citizen at the age of 19. She received a Bachelor's of Arts degree in economics from Mount Holyoke College in 1975. In the second semester of her junior year, she studied money and banking at Dartmouth College. She earned an MBA degree from Harvard Business School in 1979. Before entering public service, Chao was vice president for syndications at Bank of America Capital Markets Groups in San Francisco. She was an international banker at Citicorp in New York for 4 years from 1979 to 1983. Let me point out real quick here that her little sister Grace's first husband died the year after the economic crash of 2008. And he did some pretty shady crap with that. Okay. She was granted a coveted White House fellowship for the class of 83-84 during the Reagan administration. Chao was assigned to the Office of Policy Development, where she worked on a proposal for comprehensive national maritime policy. After her fellowship, Chao returned to banking as vice president, syndications at Bank of America from late 84 to 86. Returning to government service in 86, Chao became deputy administrator of the Maritime Administration in the U.S. Department of Transportation. From 88 to 89, she served as chairwoman of the Federal Maritime Commission. In 1989, President George H.W. Bush nominated Chao to be Deputy Secretary of Transportation. And remember that big China ship that crashed into the bridge in Baltimore, that was a year ago at the end of this month, I think the 26th of this month. And it coincides with the 54th birthday of the First Lady. Same day that Chinese ship lost power and crashed into the bridge, causing complete mayhem for many. And many never thought that that was an accident. Never. That was either sabotage or I think sabotage is kind of your only option, but let's just go on. In 89, President George H.W. Bush nominated Chao to be Department of Secretary of Transportation. Deputy Secretary. Okay, I'm like, wait. Okay. She served from 89 to 91. 91 to 92, she was the director of the Peace Corps. She expanded the Peace Corps' presence in Eastern Europe and Central Asia by establishing the first Peace Corps programs in Poland, Latvia, Lithuania, Estonia, and the newly independent states of the former Soviet Union. Newly independent states of the former Soviet Union. That might be another bone of contention. Following her service in President George H.W. Bush's administration, Chao worked for 3 years from 93 to 96 as president and CEO of United Way of America. She is credited with returning credibility and public trust to the organization after a financial mismanagement scandal. From 96 until her appointment as Secretary of Labor, Chao was a distinguished fellow with the Heritage Foundation. Wait a second, the Heritage Foundation? They're the ones who were the architects behind Project 2025, to my understanding. A conservative think tank in Washington, D.C., she was also a board member of the Independent Women's Forum. But see, I think being an independent woman and being Chinese if she is of Chinese descent, I'm a little confused about her actual, I think she's Taiwanese. Chao was the only cabinet member in the George W. Bush administration to serve the entirety of his 8-year term. At the Labor Department, Chao was true to her conservative beliefs, encouraging cutbacks in labor regulations and enforcements. Many media outlets and oversight agencies found a slowdown in regulations resulted in harmful outcomes for wage and hourly issues and workplace safety, particularly in mining. So she had a lot to do with mining regulations. I think that's what we're about to get into. That might tie in with the big E. Might or definitely does. Mining disasters in 06 and 07 included West Virginia's Sago mine explosion, which killed 12 in January 06. West Virginia's Alma mine fire, which unalived 2 in January 06. Darby mine number 1 explosion in Kentucky, which is where her husband is from, where 5 miners passed away in May of 06. Wow. And the Crandall Canyon mine collapse in Utah, which unalived 6 workers and 3 rescuers in August of 07. I only remember like the West Virginia one and then maybe the Kentucky one. I did not know about the Utah one. That's crazy. The department also updated labor union financial disclosure requirements as well as white-collar overtime regulations. In 2009, Chao resumed her previous role as a distinguished fellow at the Heritage Foundation, and she contributed to Fox News and other media outlets. Chao also served as a distinguished fellow at the Hudson Institute until she was sworn in as U.S. Secretary of Transportation on January 31st, 2017. So just like 10 or 11 days after the inauguration of Little T's first run. U.S. President-elect Trump announced on November 29th, 2016, that he would nominate Chao to be Secretary of Transportation. The U.S. Senate confirmed Chao on January 31st, 2017, by a vote of 93-6, with her husband, then Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell, abstaining. In 2017, Secretary Chao established a pilot program to test and evaluate the integration of civil and public drone operations into the airspace system. Yeah. So long and alive, but I'm with you every day. Oh, thank you, dear. That's so nice. You're a sweetheart. Let's see. And yeah, the replay crew is what keeps your channel going. I mean, you know, I'm lucky to have 10 people in my live chat. And then these days I'm lucky to get like 100 views, but that's okay. That's okay. I'm just happy to have people that are interested in what I have to say, because I need to get it off my chest. I need to put it all together. Like I had a big epiphany in yesterday's video, at least one, if not 2. That's why I do this. It helps me connect the dots. It helps my neurons fire. Okay. Are they still firing? Let's see. Where was I? I might be rereading part of this. In 2017, Secretary Chao established a pilot program to test and evaluate the interrogation of civil and public drone operations in the airspace system. Yeah, I read that. In March 2019, Chao formed the Non-Traditional and Emerging Transportation Technology Council. So one of my big nuggets live yesterday was that Chao was on the board of the car charging regulators, you know, like that Teslers would need to hook up to charge, like the whole system, the whole freaking system. Emerging Transportation Technology, NETT Council, an internal Department of Transportation group for identifying jurisdictional and regulatory gaps when considering new transportation technology. In April 2019, the FAA released proposed new regulations to modernize the rules for commercial space flight launches and reentries. As Secretary of Transportation, Chao faced controversies primarily due to her close ties to her family's international shipping business, largely with China. This led to the appearance of some conflict of interest charges and possible promotion of her family's business. Several Department of Transportation Inspector General investigations resulted. On March 4th, 2021, the Inspector General released the report citing Chao for numerous ethics violations, including using department resources for personal errands and for promoting her father's biography. It also stated that it had referred its investigation to the Justice Department and the U.S. Attorney's Office in D.C. for criminal prosecution in December 2020. Both declined to open criminal investigations into Chao. So she was found guilty of ethical violations, but nothing legal. One sec, let me let the dog in. Hey, baby. Hey, Coco. Hello, girl. You want to come sit next to Mama? Okay. I got to finish. I'm at my hour. Okay. On March 21st, the Inspector General released the report citing Chao for numerous ethics violations. Did I already read that? Yeah, I read that one. So they declined to open criminal investigations, but maybe they declined to open criminal investigations because some strings were being pulled behind the scenes. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours kind of thing. The Inspector General for Transportation also became a controversy. In May 2020, the Trump administration removed the acting Inspector General of the Transportation Department, Mitch Behm, B-E-H-M. Trump appointed Howard Skip Elliott as interim Inspector General of the Transportation Department. However, at the same time, Elliott served in a dual role where Chao was his boss. The independence of the Inspector General then became an issue for Chao. When the Department of Justice did not charge Chao with any wrongdoing, the Democratic-controlled House of Representatives Committee on Oversight and Reform began an investigation into whether she used political office to benefit her family's business interests. There have been no formal charges from this investigation also. On January 7th, 2021, the day after the January 6th U.S. Capitol attack, Chao submitted her resignation effective January 11th, 2021. Since leaving the Department of Transportation, Secretary Chao had returned to corporate board work, both profit and nonprofit, and her volunteer positions. Chao is an experienced board member, having served as director of Fortune 500 companies while out of government. She currently serves on the boards of Kroger's and several new economy technology companies in the mobility sector. She is also a director on many nonprofit boards, including Harvard Business School Board of Dean's Advisors, Global Advisory Board, Los Angeles 2028 Organizing Committee of Olympic and Paralympic Games, that's called LA 28, and a trustee of Ford's Theater, the Ronald Reagan Foundation, the Smithsonian Asian Pacific American Center, and the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. So I know the Smithsonian and the Kennedy Center have been under attack by our current presidente. I'm not sure about the Ford Theater. I would think not, since that's, I don't know if that might be tied in with the Ronald Reagan Foundation, but I'm sure that that's not been touched, and probably the Olympics has not been touched. Chao holds 37 honorary doctorates, including an honorary Doctor of Humane Letters from Georgetown McDonnell School of Business in 2015. She was initiated into Omicron Delta Kappa at SUNY, that's SUNY, that's like the New York, University of New York, Plattsburgh, as an honoris causa initiate in 96. In 93, Chao married Senator Mitch McConnell. Chao happily campaigns with her husband in his re-election bids for the U.S. Senate. Her extended family have been heavy contributors to McConnell's re-election campaigns and to the Republican Party of Kentucky. Many have noted that Chao adds a softer touch to the McConnell campaigns. The University of Louisville's Ekstrom Library opened the McConnell-Chao archives in November of 2009. It is a major component of that university's McConnell Center. Chao is part of a close-knit Taiwanese-American family, so Taiwan, yeah. Chao often honors her 95-year-old father as her escort to state dinners and having him participate in her swearing in ceremonies. The family business, the Foremost Group, is now run by Elaine Chao's sister, Angela. This was obviously written before she passed away last year. In 2012, the Chao family donated $40 million to Harvard Business School for scholarships to students of Chinese heritage and for the Ruth Mulan Chu Chao Center. That's their mother, an executive education building named for Chao's late mother. It is the first Harvard Business School building named after a woman and the first building named after an American of Asian ancestry. Ruth Ann Mulan Chu Chao returned to school at age 51 to earn a master's degree in Asian literature and history from St. John's University. And I think I'll just read this last little paragraph. This collection consists of material regarding national maritime policy. As a White House fellow, Chao gathered information and proposals on maritime policy from shipbuilders, ship owners, and maritime unions. She then created a summary of these views and proposals for the use of the Reagan administration. So she did a lot of serious hardcore work, and she knows a lot about the shipping business, specifically with China. So, all right, you guys, I better wrap up quickly because I do have a meeting I have to get to. So love and light. Thanks for joining me, and be well. Take care of yourself. Drink your water, eat your protein. Try a yoga video of mine if you want. I would say to anybody to try the most recent one, which would be the one I posted last night, just because it's the same routine pretty much in all of them. It just evolves slightly. So it gets, I think, more refined, basically. I think it's improving. Hopefully. That's the goal anyway. All right. Thanks again for watching. Peace out. Sending you love, sending you light.